Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here with John Sneisen and John Doull, and I want to start by saying our thoughts and our prayers are with those in Fort McMurray. It's really gotten to me over the last week, just seeing the aftermath of the destruction there, the amount of people who lost their homes, the amount of people whose lives have been ruined. But at the same time, it's been really nice seeing all the people as individuals coming together and helping out and trying to evacuate people. And again, it comes down to that individual who stands out there and risks everything trying to save others. And I know a lot of the volunteer firefighters out there lost everything they had because instead of going home and getting everything they wanted before the evacuation, they were busy helping other people evacuate. So my thoughts are with these people. It's unbelievable, but there are some things that we need to talk about. And I didn't really want to do much of a report on this subject because I felt it was too soon. But what I've seen coming from the Alberta government and the federal government makes me sick. Considering what the government gets involved in, then they don't get involved in helping people in this case when they actually might be needed. And okay, so I wanted to mention that Fort McMurray is one of the top tar sands cities in the world, or in Canada, I should say. And there have been 88,000 evacuations. And, of course, the firefighting budget was cut recently, but that's not the issue I really want to get to as much as the fact that people like Tom Moffat, okay, so he was a candidate with the NDP. Now, he said, and I quote, "Karmic climate change fire burns Canadian oil sands city. Hashtag feel the burn." Now, the NDP denied knowing the former candidate, but it was clear that he was at the top echelon of the NDP, and he had known all the biggest names within the NDP, and they knew him. The photos prove it. And I wanted to also read some tweets from Facebook and from Twitter where these people, you scumbags, if I could get my hands on you, I'll leave it there. It speaks enough because these people got in a lot of trouble for what they did, and rightly so. Blake Siefken said, "I'm glad Fort McMurray fire is happening in the province most responsible for the climate change that caused the fire in the first place." And Chris Sowden said, "Fort McMurray deserves to burn. All those idiots profiting off of oil should be burned alive by it." Now, this piece of trash, I believe, lost his job, according to Carbon Dioxide, the Facebook page. And rightly so, because these scumbags don't deserve to even live. If they think that people should die, if they think that everyone's possessions should burn because they're in a city that happens to be a big part of the Canadian economy, these people just don't deserve to even live. They disgust me. I'm just going to leave it there. Freedom of speech, yes, but when you say something that dumb, you deserve to be exposed. You're a sick piece of shit. Now, I wanted to get into a few more stats before we talk as a group here. Now, Canada is actually less responsible for less than 2% of GHGs. There's been 1 degree rise on average over the last century, and there was an El Nino happening at this time too. There's also aging forest, which tends to burn more, and growth in forest due to a higher level of CO2. Now, Alberta forests are aging, and we could see that this is something that is inevitably something that will happen, and we've seen even bigger fires around Fort McMurray in the past that just don't hit the news because they're put out a lot faster. Now, Premier Rachel Notley accused opposition leader Brian Jean of fear-mongering when he raised concerns regarding Alberta's and Fort McMurray's preparedness to fight forest fires. Then his house burned down right after this. Check out this video.
Mr. Speaker, they cut the budget for fighting forest fires. They did it. Nobody else did it. They need to take responsibility. This is serious. It's only May, and we can't just hope for wet weather to come around and to help. We need to get these decisions right. In February, a tender was issued for a water skimming air tanker group. On April 29th, this government cancelled the tender. All water skimming aircraft currently contracted are from Abbotsford, BC-based Conair. Can the Premier please explain right now to Albertans why this contract was scrapped and why we are settling for slower, short-range, small, less-capacity water tanker aircraft?
The fact of the matter is this is about budgeting, how we profile the budget, but we've made it very clear, and all the contractors know full well that when we need them, they need to be there. They are there. They are being hired. Every resource that is required is being dedicated to this fire, Mr. Speaker, and the members opposite should stop the fear-mongering.
Personally speaking, I mean, you lost your home too.
I lost everything. A lot of memories from the last 50 years of my life here, but the truth is it just doesn't matter. It's just stuff.
Then when asked about state of emergency, Rachel Notley said, "At this point, the kinds of authorities a state of emergency grants us are authorities, quite frankly, we already have," which is alarming to say the least. That we'll leave it at that. But she said this with a smirk on her face as people's houses were burning down at the same moment. Now, I want you to check out this video. Trudeau opened up a press conference with a joke about Star Wars. Look at this.
To see everyone in such a good mood celebrating Star Wars Day today. May the 4th be with you. No, obviously, this is an important milestone in the life of our government, but before anything else, our thoughts are turning to our friends in Alberta.
Now, Trudeau has also said he won't travel to Fort McMurray, and it's just interesting considering the fact that Trudeau gives billions of dollars to foreign dictators and billions for infrastructure on the other side of the world, which would be a nice thing if it were to be done voluntarily, but refuses to do anything but match Red Cross donations. Now, recently, Vladimir Putin, basically the Russian government, the Mexican government, and the U.S. government all pledged to give money to Fort McMurray to help in rebuilding and help put out the fire. And Trudeau, as of today, which is the 9th of May, said that he will not accept these donations. So he's not accepting money from countries that are willingly, voluntarily giving money to help put out this fire and help the residents of Fort McMurray. So I've done my little fact spiel here. I want these guys beside me here, John Sneisen and John Doull, to go into this as well, because this is something that it's something that it should alarm everyone about the NDP and their true intentions and who these people really are as individuals and who the Prime Minister really is when, like I said, he's giving money to foreign dictators, but he will back out on Fort McMurray. Why? Because, those dirty scoundrels, those damn capitalists living in an oil fueled city. It just, what do you have to say there, John?
I think here's my point of view, guys, and I think it all comes back to we just very, very recently signed the Paris climate talk deal in Paris, and it says that they will basically work on eliminating oil from production. Well, now 25% of Canada's oil production is out, plus actually. And how about those transfer payments that Manitoba, that a whole bunch of Quebec, Ontario is getting from the oil sands? What are you going to do when that money is not there anymore? Here in Manitoba, for example, let's take an example. We got $1.8 billion from the money that comes out of those hardworking people in Alberta. And what are we doing here? Well, we're running a $400 million deficit on top of that. So it's just pure insanity in my point of view.
This is something that's got to my heart a lot lately, and what's happening in Fort McMurray. And I can't imagine what it's like to actually be living there and to have lost basically everything. What do you think, John?
Well, I mean, the whole thing was just absolutely horrifying. I couldn't believe just the pictures and things that have been coming out of there, trying to imagine what it'd be like to just have almost the entire city just burned right down to the foundations. I mean, almost everyone's homes just got burned. I mean, it's insanity, and I really feel for those people. In terms of the other things that we're getting into here, like how it's been dealt with, I would have to agree that there's some very strange behavior on the part of the provincial government and the federal government here. I mean, it's strange that when the new Notley government tabled their budget this year, their first budget. It was the biggest budget in Alberta history, and they basically were expanding government as much as they could. They added about, I think it was 200 new bureaucrats, all with nice salaries, and
exactly
they're expanding. They're
amazing.
expanding everything. Yeah. They have the money to roll out their new program in the schools where you're not supposed to say he or she.
It's Z and Zer. Don't you remember, you bigot?
Yeah. Sorry. But the one thing that they slashed was the firefighting budget. Now, I think that has been misrepresented in some of the stories about it. I know the Rebel media was, I think, misrepresenting what happened with the budget cuts in that story.
They had a good idea with their story, but yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because they were presenting it in an article that probably a lot of people saw that came out last week as if the total amount that was spent on firefighting last year was the budget. So they were saying there was almost $500 million spent, and then presenting it as the budget was cut down to $105 million or something in that neighborhood. But in reality, the firefighting budget is always much lower than what they end up spending.
Yeah. And
they use emergency funds in Alberta to pay for the majority of their firefighting. So the budget was only cut by $15 million. I mean, it's still a lot of money. But the fact that they made that budget cut to begin with when they're expanding everything else is strange. And then they were cutting their tanker contracts with the air tankers.
Yeah.
And cutting the amount of days that they'll keep them on call.
Isn't that incredible?
And so I was reading an article in the National Post today where they talked to one of the biggest air tanker companies in Canada's owner, and he was saying that his crews aren't going to be around Alberta this summer because they're not contracted for a long enough time for it to be worth their while. So they're driving, these water bombers guys out of the province at the time when they're needed the most.
Yeah.
And the whole attitude just seems really bizarre.
Extremely strange.
Brian Jean, you had alluded to what he was saying in question period to Rachel Notley earlier. That night his house burned down after that.
Yeah.
And she was accusing him of fear-mongering when he was just presenting what the situation was. I mean, there was a giant wildfire heading for the city.
Notley's
and
just
the
horrible.
next day his house is gone. So how was that fear-mongering when he's saying that not enough is being done?
Anything that isn't in the dialogue of the NDP is fear-mongering, bigotry, racism, anything that they can throw at it. Sexism because you dare question Notley.
Their core supporters will just go along with that every time. They know that.
It's a headache.
So all they have to do is just be like, oh, look at this bigoted man telling me that there's a fire.
And isn't it interesting, though, too, that we, when we're looking at cuts, no, I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I like cuts. I like it when we have absolute freedom and we don't have collectivist control over every individual through the economy, through the markets. And I believe in free markets, but it always seems so ironic what is actually cut. Yeah. So with the NDP, they will bloat the budget to the point of almost exploding and literally creating bubbles. And then when it comes down to the most necessary things, that's where they'll cut. Yeah. And of course it's because it's Alberta, because those damn people are, they got their tar sands there. Those damn people are trying to, make a living out there. And how dare they in their pickup trucks and cowboy hats. I mean, this is the height of intolerance. These people that claim to be so tolerant to every form of individual, and they are like the least tolerant person when these people's houses are gone, when they've lost everything. And I believe there's 2 deaths on the highway.
They use oil themselves. That's the most frustrating thing about this. These people out tweeting these righteous eco warriors saying on Twitter, yeah, I'm glad that all these people lost their homes tonight. Climate change. You're typing this on your computer that's
made out of petroleum products. Same with your phone, same with your hats, same with everything.
Most of these people have cars. Oil isn't just involved in so many of the products that we use. And I want to see more alternative energy. And that I'm very into getting into hemp fuel or hemp-based plastics, things like that. There are actually a lot of better alternatives to oil. But to just condemn people for, doing well in the market that's there. And, and these are, the sickest part about it is these are like blue collar people that go out to places like Fort McMurray to make their living. I mean, I grew up around a lot of them in Nova Scotia.
Our friend Tim Moen here at WAM, of course, is a volunteer firefighter in Fort McMurray, and our thoughts are with him as well. But, and I wanted to bring you in on this, John, two Johns, it gets confusing, John Sneisen and John Doull. Anyway, I wanted to bring you in on this because I find it interesting that, as you brought up, actually, was that we do have a problem with oil. We really should push to more sustainable things voluntarily, like hemp, because obviously hemp is far more sustainable and can actually bring in a lot more money than oil in the long run with all that it could go towards. Mm-hmm. But we have to do that in a manner where the market's accepted, where the people accept it, so that you're not just taking something out of the economy just like that and forcing something big or something that doesn't have a massive market yet into the economy, and basically it's helping that would help undermine the entire economy, and then everyone would suffer from that. And yes, big oil companies are a problem. Yes, we are plunging oil from the Middle East, and our country, the United States, we've been involved in massacres overseas for oil and for central banking and for religion. And I think it's so important that we realize that we need to keep an open mind and have some tolerance with this, because when it comes to the market, you cannot just pull something that's like pulling the rug from underneath of you. You just can't do it. And John,
that's the point, though.
Well, it's debatable, It's.
I mean, I feel like our federal government wants to see the economy implode so they can come in and centralize their control more.
I think policies that they're running.
Sure. What do you think about the markets and oil and trying to replace something like oil with hemp as an economic animal?
First of all, the government should have nothing to do with the replacement of any energy.
Yes.
And how about just making it to a free market economy on the energy side? We've seen mostly energy monopolization in the world. And how about giving people basically the chance to buy themselves the possibility to implement free energy systems to their property, of course not through government stealing taxation from someone and giving grants, but actually by people buying it themselves through them working hard and them starting their own businesses and then buying the technology that can make them energy self-sufficient instead. How about that instead of having massive infrastructure projects, when I do believe there's definite energy systems out there that could easily be implemented in people's houses that could make us energy independent. But I don't want any government interference into this, because that's what they believe, that the government, and that's what we see with the Paris climate talks.
Absolutely.
The government tries to always intervene, and they're always destroying society every single time. And I'm getting really sick and tired of this, especially you NDP guys and my Workers' Party in Norway friends, and of course the progressive, any political party today are on the left side of the spectrum.
And the point is, it's collectivism versus individualism, and that is, of course, the point that J. Edward Griffin always tries to make, and we always try to make. And I mean, it's gone from everywhere, from the theory that the big oil companies were involved in the fire to drive up the price of oil, to environmentalists. I have to mention that right before the fire in Fort McMurray, there was all over the news a kid who was the son of the former mayor of Mayerthorpe, Alberta, who was caught starting a whole bunch of fires. He was with the volunteer firefighters there, and he was caught basically starting, I think it was like 30 fires or something, and it's alleged at this time because it's in the court process. But I mean, this was all over the news, and that he was targeting oil sands and oil rigs and places like that, and targeting train tracks that brought oil out of the province. And it's interesting to think about that, on top of the fact that also another theory that's out there is that ISIS, or the CIA, ISIS was talking about starting forest fires to aggravate and hurt the economy.
I think there's a lot of really insane, radical people who would do things like start a big forest fire intentionally. I mean, there's a lot of possibility that something like that happened.
The fact that we've seen all those people supporting what happened online, I mean, these are complete scumbags. Like, I wish I could get a hold of them.
And like I was saying earlier, it's that horrible dynamic that we see all the time with the social justice warriors, where it's, you know, like a rich kid, you know, with their parents' trust fund, sitting on their petroleum-made laptop saying like, oh, these people in Fort McMurray, I'm so glad their town burned down. Those stupid like oil hits.
They're sticky.
And they're just talking about working class people that mostly moved from places like Newfoundland and Nova Scotia and things to go get a job so that they didn't have to, you know, just be in dire poverty.
Those
They're
stinky little hipsters should go out to the bush, get their stupid commune together, start growing their own food, take off all their clothes that come from petroleum products, just run around naked in the woods, and see how long you get, how far you get actually having to provide for yourselves, because these people are lazy and they can't even take care of themselves, and they want government to take care of them. But then they, you know, they preach this push for, you know, ending these damn oil companies, ending all this stuff, and, you know, being able to start some kind of communist society. Well, yeah, okay, I'd like to see you try providing for all your neighbors by force.
Well, I would really like it if they could separate themselves from the rest of society and make their commune.
It's already good enough, as you've mentioned to me in the past, that these people are for eugenics, and they don't even support having children, most of them. Yeah. So, like, maybe we won't see many of them in the future because they'll just not have kids anymore.
Unless they figure out how to clone themselves.
Oh, God, I hope not. Please, government, do not show them how to clone themselves. Anyway, I don't want to get on too much of a comedic standpoint here, because obviously what happened in Fort McMurray is horrible. Yes. And I can't say it enough. Like, I have so much hope seeing the people in Fort McMurray that have helped themselves, that have gotten up and helped their neighbor.
Humanity is still running great.
Humanity is alive
Fort
and well.
McMurray.
Let's make sure
we're
that.
Thankful for that.
And it was amazing that everybody. I mean, I know there was a couple of fatalities on the road going out. It was amazing that what the effort on behalf of the firefighters and the search and rescue people and whoever else that it must have taken to get everybody out of that city safely. And nobody apparently was left in their home to...
Imagine that. People can take care of themselves, and people can organize themselves and, you know, be able to help their fellow neighbor and fellow man. And
it wasn't the provincial government that was...
Oh, absolutely not. What the provincial and the federal government have done, they're just showing their uselessness. And you know what? It's going to work in our favor, guys, because... You know, with incompetence and the lack of ethics and the lack of morality that these nut jobs have, I mean, it just goes to prove that they're going to push their own people away.
Well, and I'm surprised that, I mean, Justin Trudeau loves grandstanding. He loves the big moments where he can, you know, have his picture taken. And, you know, I'm very surprised that he didn't want to go do a bunch of photo ops in Fort Mac. But, I mean, honestly, they're better off not having him there. If that guy showed up and...
There's a popular photo going around of him taking a selfie in front of the fire. Yeah.
Even Bush actually went to New Orleans, which, think about that, Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, and Bush...
and Trudeau's not only not showing up, but... I mean, you mentioned the offers of funding assistance from the U.S. and Mexico and things. Russia also wanted to send water bombers. Yeah. And Trudeau said, we don't need those.
Trudeau, the same guy who said that he wanted to go up to Putin and tell him to his face, like a school kid, that, you're a bully, Mr. Putin.
While Trudeau actually have to borrow freaking money from us, from our future, in order to spend on this massive government.
Yeah, and this is not much of a credit to Harper or Christian or others who, but I mean, the fact is they went out and they actually, during the Red River flood back in 1997, Chrétien was here in Winnipeg. During the High River Alberta flood, Harper was there. Now, of course, it was a big part of a photo op for them, and they wanted to take pictures next to the disaster and look like they're somehow helping the situation in one way or another. But of course. But the fact is, I mean, Trudeau isn't even trying. He's just a PR guy, and he can't even get the right PR moments. He's going out with sick kids to movies instead. Oh my God!
And Chrétien was a scrappy guy who fought his way to the top.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't. Trudeau is one of these guys who's, you know, born on third base and thinks he's got a triple.
Silver spoon in his mouth, and he is a piece of shit, and I'm not afraid to say it. I really hope you burn in hell, Trudeau. Anyway, we got a lot of facts spoken of. We will go into this probably more in the future, because as time goes by, we will learn more, and I'm thinking that what we are going to learn isn't too good, but there is a point of humility and humanity and the ability for individuals to take care of themselves and help each other out, and that's so inspiring, apart from all the garbage that we've seen from the government. So thank you guys for getting into this with me. This video ended up at a half an hour long. We get to talking, right? So anyway, thank you, and we will see you guys soon. Leave a comment, leave a question, subscribe, like us on Facebook, find us at worldalternativemedia.com, and if you have anything else that you want us to talk about, let us know. This is Josh Sigurdson, John Sneisen, John Doull, signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.